My new book, Facts That Aren't True, is out now. Don't forget about my other book, Rational Answers to Stupid Questions. Click the link in the description now. All right, the quantum consciousness argument for God. Go ahead.
So premise one, consciousness can arise from purely physical configurations of information.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down. So give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. P1 was, say it again, please.
Consciousness can arise from purely physical configurations of information.
Okay.
And do you want to talk about that or just go through the whole thing first?
I mean, I don't even disagree, so
Yeah. I think it's well supported in science.
yeah,
So,
I'm a meat machine and I'm conscious, so I think I have to agree.
oh yeah, for sure. So premise two, the pre-Big Bang state of reality was a quantum foam, hyphen explaining what that is, which is a superposition of all possible physical configurations. This is kind of the key premise, and I have another argument to support it if we need to.
Sure.
All right, premise three. If all possible states exist in superposition, then at least some of those states contain the necessary conditions for consciousness.
If all possible states exist in superposition, then at least some of those states contain the yeah, I think that would have to be the case. Yeah.
Cool. Premise four, last premise. If conscious states were present before physical reality took definite form, then consciousness is more fundamental than matter.
Interesting. And then, is there a conclusion, or is it just that?
The conclusion is that essentially a primordial mind existed before the universe, from which our reality emerged, and this is what we call God.
Okay, so like, do you believe in like a classical theistic personal God or anything like that, or this is your description of God?
This is more of like a naturalistic deistic God, but it could be personal too, and I have an explanation for how. It could actually desire things. I have an explanation for how, but it works through us. Like its desires are our desires essentially, because it just knows all things that we know. So it would essentially be a mind that chose between possible realities that are logically possible and chose the best one based off of the conscious beings within each of those realities.
Okay, I myself only have like one original thought about this, and it's going to come from P4 and the conclusion. But I ran this through ChatGPT because I'm not a. If Blitz were here, he'd be pretty. I think he'd be able to go through this pretty well, but he's not here right now. So what it says here with P1 potential issue. Does information mean physical configurations of matter or abstract possibilities?
Oh, abstract possibilities. Physical configurations it means like literal physical possibilities. So when they mean abstract, I don't actually know what they mean by that. Do they mean non-physical possibilities?
Well, because I think it's because information is kind of a abstract nebulous term, or it can be. So they want to know if by consciousness can arise from purely physical configurations of information, does information mean physical configuration of matter or abstract possibilities? That's what they're saying.
It definitely means physical configuration of matter.
Okay.
Yeah, but the key here is that the physical configurations are just to show that we don't need to assume dualism for this argument to work. The key here, if for premise one, is that consciousness arises from configurations of information specifically, because physical matter
Right.
is information. Like, information is more fundamental than physical matter.
So, do you think you may have a problem there where you're reifying the term information when it's literally just something else?
Information is something else. What do you mean?
Because you said the information is just the configurations of matter, right?
No, I'm saying that physical configurations of matter have contain information as a property.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess the reification could occur if you're treating that property as if it is something else, when it's literally just a description of the matter, you know?
Oh, okay. So as if information is a thing in itself, when really
Yeah.
it's just like language we use to describe the shape of stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're treating information that way. I'm just saying maybe that's a possible issue. The other thing it said here was if specific physical conditions are required, then consciousness would not arise in just any configuration. But I mean, you said the quantum state contains all possible configurations, so I don't think that's actually really much of a problem.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about the premise one, but you can keep going as I think about it.
I mean, what it says about premise 2 is just that the nature of the pre-bang reality is unknown. So, I mean, there's nothing really to criticize, but
yeah, you can make an argument for parsimony about that one. That if you take in all of the data that we have and theories, that the quantum foam is the theory that posits the least amount of extra stuff, like compared to string theory and stuff like that. And it doesn't. It's like the simplest explanation that doesn't require or posit assumptions as much as the others. So that would be my reason for believing the quantum foam theory is the best pre-Big Bang like idea of reality.
okay. Premise 3. If all possible states exist in superposition, then at least some of those states contain the necessary conditions for consciousness. This just reminds me so much of God must exist because God's a maximally great being, and a maximally great being, it's better that it does exist than not exist. So if there's a possible world where it could exist, therefore it does exist. It reminds me of that, which is funny. It says, issue with that, just because all possible physical states exist in superposition does not mean functional consciousness emerges from them. I don't really know what to say to
That's
that.
a good one. No, that's actually a really good objection, because it's possible that consciousness requires like the flow of time in particular, like the way in this superposition idea, it's not clear that this being would experience time. So it's possible that it wouldn't be conscious.
So could this be the thing, like, just because you have all possible configurations of matter doesn't mean those configurations of matter occur in a sequence that produces consciousness? Because, like, eventually I'm going to die, right? And I won't be conscious. My brain is going to rot. What if I cycle between, like me today, and then in the next moment, my brain consists of that configuration of matter? There's nothing to say, and actually the laws of physics don't care. Well, the arrow of time can go forward or backward, but it doesn't like skip from point A to point Z to point D or anything like that. But yeah, I guess you could argue that you can't escape that those configurations of matter have to occur in a sequence for consciousness to really work. And what's to say that those possibilities can't just occur in a random order? I think that's interesting.
Right. I like the random order thing you said. I have a response to it. I think that even time itself is describable by the quantum foam's interactions. So some of the states that the quantum foam would have would include informationally the passage of time, even though it would exist outside of time. It would just include the information of time passing. Does that make sense?
A little bit. I'll admit that I did get a little bit distracted because we have a question on YouTube. God equals the square root of -1 wants to know if the quantum foam died for our sins or not.
Well, the quantum foam is the fundamental structure of all of reality, and so if anybody has ever died for your sins, then the quantum foam also died for your sins, because it is the fundamental layer of that person that died for your sins.
But it's
So I
also
can
responsible for all of your problems in that case.
Yes, indeed. It is simultaneously responsible. But I mean, come on, under the Christian worldview, God did all of the evil as well.
No,
Like
I know.
it's
Yeah, believe me, I know.
yeah, there's no getting around that.
There's another, it had a different issue in premise 3. Consciousness, as we understand it, requires organization, memory, and processing, which may not exist in an undifferentiated quantum superposition. So I think, I don't know, to me that's like saying, look, if I take an apple and put it in a blender, literally every piece of information about the apple is there, but, well, that's actually probably not true. If I put an apple in a blender, all of the matter is conserved. We could even say all the energy is conserved, but it doesn't actually contain the information that would allow you to reconstruct it. So perhaps a quantum state has that fundamental problem as well. Maybe it's an information black hole in a way. I don't know.
I think it's an information white hole, but I would say that the information to reconstruct the apple is there. It's just not accessible with today's current technology, but is theoretically there. Like you can, if you knew, if we didn't have the uncertainty problem with quantum mechanics, if we could observe the actual like wave function, momentum, like all of the things involved, I imagine we could reconstruct the apple. It's just a limit of our observational abilities as human beings. But I hold to super determinism. I don't think that random causation is a thing.
Okay. Where are we at? Premise 4 was, if conscious states were present before physical reality took form, then consciousness is more fundamental than matter. It says, if consciousness depends on physical information structures, as assumed in P1, then it needs a material or informational medium. So I think it's saying that the quantum state doesn't, it's kind of like P3 to me. That's saying the quantum state doesn't contain the same information as the physical form. Therefore, it doesn't actually contain any kind of consciousness or anything.
Yeah, I don't see a problem because it is information. It doesn't have to be physical. I think information is fundamental to matter. It exists before matter. It's more like information is like the structure of reality from a metaphysical standpoint, but it's represented by physical stuff, which is just like the quantum field, you know? So I don't know. I don't know if that is an issue. I'm still thinking about what Various said. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle is nature itself being unsure. I think you're right. I just need to think about like exactly what that means. Pick up David Griffith's textbook on quantum mechanics. Okay, I will. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm ignoring the comments. Hey Peterson, for an example. I think that's probably an old comment talking about the apple in a blender. It also says for P4, this does not necessarily lead to an eternal, independent mind, only the possibility that consciousness might have existed before our universe. I sort of forgot what my original take on this exactly was going to be, but I know it was something sort of like, well, I don't know if this tells me we have an eternal mind, because the mind to me is just part of the universe itself. It doesn't exist apart from the universe, you know? So
yeah. Well, remember, we're talking about the universe in two different states. We're talking about the state of the universe within time and within the Big Bang, and then the state of the universe theoretically outside the structure of the Big Bang, which, again, I hold to fourth dimensional space-time, like Minkowski space. I don't think that time is separate from space, and I think that it's like a B theory of time. The future already exists. The quantum foam exists, It basically creates the structure of time. And we just experience time passing because we're inside of it, but it all exists at once.
Yeah, I mean, the general relativity kind of blew the lid off this and said, well, actually, the past, present, and future kind of all have to simultaneously exist. And it's like, what the fuck? That's very hard to deal with. It's convenient for me because I don't believe in free will, and that makes it completely impossible. And the science kind of backs it up. So, oh God, is there anything that I can do with my my microscopic brain to add to this. So what? Well, I think I know what you mean, but when you say consciousness is more fundamental than matter, you say that because you think that this argument grants that consciousness exists before matter takes on the form it does as we understand it, right?
Yeah, because pre-Big Bang, the quantum field still consisted of fundamental particles of like whatever unifying force we have yet to discover. And so because of that, they're still technically like physical, they're energy, but they're fluctuations in a quantum field, they're not matter. So that premise is just saying that consciousness comes before matter, like mass, not necessarily comes before energy.
Okay. Oh yeah, there was the conclusion. So it said two things about the conclusion. Even if we accept the premises, this does not logically necessitate an eternal mind. I guess it's telling you it's not. It's either telling you it's not deductive or the premises aren't like guaranteed. It only suggests that some pre-Big Bang states might contain consciousness. The other thing it says is a temporary consciousness, or sorry, a temporary conscious state in pre-Big Bang reality is not the same as an eternally existing, fully developed mind. That's what it says.
Can you run that last sentence by me again?
A temporary conscious state in pre-Big Bang reality is not the same as an eternally existing, fully developed mind.
Right. I think this is solved by the unified nature of the quantum foam. It's not like it's a superposition of all possible states independent from one another. It's a superposition of all possible states existing at all at once. So it's like a qubit. It exists as a one in anything between 1 and 0 on the wave function all at once, rather than all those temporary minds are unified in a way.
Okay. I mean, it's cool. I'm gonna tell Blitz to watch this video, and he can maybe he'll do like a react video to it.
I've been waiting for him to school me on quantum mechanics because I have disagreements with Blitz on his interpretation, and I've been told to talk to him. I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet.
Well, you said you're a hard determinist.
Yes.
Well, I think he would agree with that because
I think he is as well.
Yeah, because he takes on the Everett interpretation. Because what I know very little about this, but when I talk to other people, they say, well, the Bell inequality theorems really do actually prove that there are certain things that are just fundamentally unpredictable, but that's if you have a Copenhagen interpretation of what happens when the wave function collapses. If you take the many worlds or the Everett interpretation, it's not the same problem. It actually still can be super determined or whatever. And the reasons why, I'm not the guy for that.
So. Yeah, well, he like my key thing with Blitz is that I think he is like saying that superposition is not like an actual physical state, but that it's really like a mathematical representation of an unknown variable. But the Bell's theorems, like you said, disprove that very thing. So I really don't know what he has to say about that it's been disproven, and yet he still says that it's superposition is just a variable.
Well, I don't know either. So we may probably have to leave it there.